All right. Thank you everyone for joining us for the spring 2021 general body meeting of Graduate Assistants United at the University of Florida. Our agenda is going to be pretty light today. We're going to give committee updates, anti-austerity updates, or at least some key anti-austerity updates. We're going to have an election. This is going to be an election by acclamation, and there will be a postponement until tomorrow for the election or the referenda for bylaws amendments. And I will explain why that is when we get to the election portion. And then after that, we're just going to have an open floor to give members, anyone who is already here or who might join us in a few minutes, a time to ask questions, share concerns. So my hope is that we can sort of speed through the committee updates, anti-austerity updates, and the election, so that way we can leave plenty of time for open floor before people have to leave for other engagements. That being said, if you have any questions about the committee updates, don't hesitate to ask them. If they are appropriate to be asked at that time, ask them. But I do want to make sure we leave enough time for the open floor. This will also be my last general body meeting as co-president. Thankfully, I'm very excited about that. So let's get started. The committee updates will be in the following order: bargaining, grievance, healthcare, mental health, international student affairs, family and child care, communication, organizing, and stewards. We don't have all the officers here with us. I think there were some scheduling conflicts, unfortunately, where I or Meredith am able to fill in for those missing officers and give their committee updates. We will do so, but we may have to skip some. All right, so let's get started with the bargaining committee update. Javi.
Good evening, everyone. So this is going to be relatively brief. On April 9th, you should have received a paycheck that involved disbursement of $227.25 for your fee relief for this semester. The university contends that they cannot continue, that they can't pay the bursar directly on our behalf, which is upsetting, and we think it's false. It's also what they agreed to do in writing. So know that that fight still continues. We waived our right to kind of fight them this semester, but that bargaining continues. We're actually running into a deadline very soon that might push bargaining to the next level. Know that that means we either proceed to impasse or we'll be filing an unfair labor practice if UF doesn't change its stance. But just know that we have a short-term strategy and a long-term strategy for that. You also, in that same paycheck, should have been credited an additional $3. That's because UF prematurely instituted the healthcare changes without ratification of our last contract. So they owe you that money back, and that would have shown up in your health insurance deduction for that paycheck. Otherwise, the last thing I want to do is encourage people to, we set up a committee I think maybe in January of this year for what I'm calling the HARC. I don't remember what it stands for, but it's for the union's aid assistance for GAs who fall upon hard times. I want to encourage members to join that and ask about that and become a part of that. There was a lot of interest previously. It's kind of waned over time. Naturally, we're all doing 1,000 things, but I want to take this opportunity to just spice that up a little bit and encourage people to reach out to us to join that committee. That's all I've got, Bobby. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and Javi did an excellent job on the most recent full book. One other bargaining update I want to mention is in the new contract, which we ratified early this semester. We did win a new provision in our additional rights article, which does allow graduate workers, graduate assistants to make an anonymous report if they feel that there is some emotional abuse, mental abuse in their department. They can make that report through us anonymously, or they can report directly to HR. Once they do that, an investigation will be launched, and HR will do all they can do, considering the anonymous nature of the report. And importantly, at the conclusion of that investigation, UFGAU receives a copy of the findings. So this will allow us to hold, on one hand, it will allow us to hold misbehaving faculty accountable, right? We know who they are now, we know what the results of the investigation were, so we can watch them even if there is no discipline or if the findings are inconclusive. We will be able to have them on our radar and know what to look for on that, on the one hand. On the other hand, it will allow us to get a better sense of what all graduate workers are experiencing in terms of mental and emotional abuse now that there is an outlet for them to make reports anonymously, which is always a big barrier to reporting on professors. It allows us to get a broader picture of what's going on. So this is a very big win. So thank you, Javi, for securing that. Does anybody have any questions about bargaining? Please raise your hand, or is there anything in the chat? All right. Seeing none, we will move on to grievance. We have had no individual grievance cases this semester. We have had a single chapter grievance. You may have heard that the university had implemented changes to the Gator grad care health insurance benefits prior to us ratifying the new contract. So UF just assumed that all graduate workers would approve these changes. They didn't want to wait, so they went ahead and made the changes before you guys had an opportunity to weigh in on it, right? You are the union, the chief bargainer, the executive board. We try to, in good faith, reach an agreement that is beneficial to everyone. But at the end of the day, you all have final say over whether or not we accept it. So it is absolutely unacceptable for the university to just implement changes before you have had your voice heard. So we filed a chapter grievance over that, and the university claimed, among other things, that they did not need to respect the ratification process, that there was a date, I forget the exact date, it was February something, that doesn't exist for UF. Apparently they are not following the Gregorian calendar, and also that the point was moved because you had ratified it anyways. We fought that, and we sought and received approval from our statewide union, United Faculty of Florida's Contract Enforcement Committee, to escalate this to the final stage of the grievance process, arbitration, which they approved. We filed the notice of intent to go to arbitration, and UF had changed course and decided that they wanted to settle. They did not want an arbiter to officially proclaim that they had messed up, that they had done us wrong, which they would have done. It was a very clear-cut case, open and shut. So everyone did receive a reduction. I believe it was the last paycheck. That's right. Yeah, the last paycheck, a reduction of $3 in your Gator grad care premiums to make up for the fact that they implemented premiums early. They did not officially admit to any wrongdoing, but we do have some language that we probably need to publish soon that sort of, in a very roundabout way, does have them admitting that they violated the contract. So we settled that chapter grievance, and in essence, we won it. And thankfully, this semester so far, we have not received, well, we've only received one report of a GA not being reappointed in the upcoming semesters due to financial exigency. We were surprised by this. At the end of last spring semester, we had quite a few GAs who were being told they were not going to be reappointed due to financial troubles, and we expected that to be compounded this semester because the university has made cuts across the board in anticipation of state funding cuts, with the exception of President Fox's baby, that creepy AI initiative. So thankfully, we have not had that. We've had one case this semester. In that case, we were going to try to resolve it informally before officially filing grievance. But that GA actually was afforded a different funding stream by their department. So as of now, there are no GAs that we are aware of, or no members rather, that we're aware of that are not being reappointed due to financial exigency. So we have a couple more weeks to go, but it looks like we're in the clear as far as that is concerned. So that's good. Any questions about grievance? Please raise your hand or throw something in the chat. Seeing none, let's go ahead and go to healthcare. Rachel?
Hi, so this semester has largely been focused on finishing up and ratifying the healthcare bargaining, as well as their early implementation, which we then had to fight for. I'm still having a session with, sit down with Dr. Sumfest and some others in Gator Grad Care, just to ensure that there were graduate students who had hospitalizations that resulted in very large out-of-pocket costs before the ratification. We think this is largely going to be a moot issue, but again, we want to make sure that no graduate assistant is being charged because of the university's error. We've also been focused on vaccinations, getting word out about vaccinations. We were able to disperse information pretty rapidly about the Jacksonville site and the Orange County sites. This has largely become a non-issue as Alachua County has started doing walk-up vaccinations as well. However, again, we are still very much aware that this is not a shut case. The university plans to commit to a full reopening for summer B and for fall semester. Full capacity in classes. It's unclear about mask mandates. So again, we're keeping a close eye on that, especially with recent news that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine has been put on hold for safety reasons. And again, very good that it was, just to ensure, but we want to make sure we've reached a point that's safe for everyone to return, because the university does not have our best interests in mind and has not this entire COVID pandemic. I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions about healthcare? Any questions of our healthcare chair? Please raise your hand or throw them in the chat. All right, seeing none, we will move on to mental health. Our mental health chair, actually, no longer have a mental health chair. Our mental health chair stepped away to focus on their research, which is completely understandable. They had a very, very busy year with the mental health committee, and they worked very hard, and I believe should probably mention who it is. Kimberly Williams of the English department was our mental health healthcare chair. She had a very busy year, worked very hard, and thanks to her work, we got a better contract. She worked on especially the healthcare portion of the contract to ensure more efficient delivery of talk space. She also, along with Rachel and Javi, developed a very productive relationship with the head of Gator Care, Jill Sumfest, which I think benefited us greatly in contract negotiations. And I've worked with Jill before, When you're working with Jill and Bill in conjunction, it's a very difficult thing to do. So the three of their work with Jill is greatly appreciated, and I think helped us reach a satisfactory outcome. In addition, she had worked on trying to get UF to move away from a subscription to Talkspace free to all students, undergraduate or graduate, and get them to move to a higher quality service with better credentialed and more qualified providers called Lyra. Unfortunately, at this time, that was not successful. She was not able to convince Gator Care and the University of Florida to move to a more expensive Lyra virtual therapy subscription. However, it did open the door to future discussions. We sort of started speaking with Gator Care, Kimberly started speaking with Gator Care about switching to Lyra halfway through Gator Care's renewal negotiations with Talkspace. So I do think that depending on Talkspace usage, Talkspace feedback, and the solvency of Gator Grad Care, if the money looks good, I do think there's a strong possibility that they will be able to switch to a Lyra subscription the next time around. And I do apologize, I forget exactly how long the current contract between between UF and Talkspace is. Does anyone recall?
I was about to hop in.
Yeah,
So they were planning on a longer term one, but Kimberly managed to convince them to only a year renewal, which is really, really great, which allows us the chance to definitely reconsider all our options. I think also we got expanded access to psychiatric providers in Talkspace. So it's no longer therapists and counselors. You can actually have people who prescribe you with medications now as well.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah, so she did
Which
work.
is a pain on the app to do, but it supposedly is feasible.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very important. So she did manage to contract that contract, or shorten that contract, which is a big win and is very helpful in our future goal of getting a higher quality virtual therapy service. So I wish Kimberly was here so we can all thank her. She really busted her ass on that. And I do think that this is something that's very, very winnable next time contract negotiations, or next time virtual therapy contractor negotiations come around. Kimberly also worked with our statewide affiliate on a pilot group therapy program where we had a mental health / trauma specialist come in and speak with a group of GAs as a group. And hopefully after the legislative session, when things calm down in Tallahassee a bit, they can use sort of the experience from that pilot session that we had here at UFGAU that Kimberly worked very hard on. Hopefully use that to expand to all chapters throughout the state, whether they be the GAU chapters, the state university system chapters, or the state college system chapters. So Kimberly, you're not here, but if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much for all your hard work. It is greatly appreciated. So any questions about mental health, please write them in the chat or raise your hand. All right, seeing none, we will move on. I do not see Akil or Jackie here, so the next update was going to be International Student Affairs. Does anybody, any other officers, do they have anything they want to say about that? Okay. The only thing that I can think of right now is that UF is still requiring that international students work, or international graduate workers be in the United States when they work and take a class in person. This is based on a very conservative, actually, it's not even a reading of a rule or regulation. It's a very conservative anticipation of what they feel is forthcoming regulation. So the Trump administration had tried to put extra constraints on international graduate students in terms of requiring them to be in person during the pandemic. That rule was swatted down by the courts, and they tried again. It was swatted down by the courts because the courts felt that the administration and the Department of Homeland Security in particular violated the Administrative Procedures Act. So it was thrown out on technicality. So what they did was they submitted it again, following all the procedures laid out in the Administrative Procedures Act, and that rule was pending review. UF is still anticipating that rule to go through. I can tell you right now, it's not going to. No other university, major university, I'm not sure about smaller ones, but I have reached out to like University of Michigan, people at Harvard, Columbia, NYU, they, and UC, those schools are not reading the tea leaves the same way as UF. Everybody's pretty much sure that this rule is not going to, if it gets through the Department of Homeland Security, right? If that cabinet department does end up approving the rule, it still has to be reviewed by an office called OIRA in the Office of Management and Budget. There's no way that OIRA right now is going to approve this rule. I'm willing to bet half my stipend on that. So that being said, here at UF, we are reopening fully beginning summer B. So we will all be in that same boat. All right. Moving on to family and childcare. Pilar?
Hi, hello everyone. So it's gonna be brief because we just constituted the committee like a couple months ago, but we've been mostly working on creating a report to support upcoming bargaining efforts in the fall, I believe, regarding parental leave for UU. So kind of taking the momentum that because faculty has gotten parental leave recently. So I think actually all workers right at UF have gotten parental leave except for graduate assistants. So we want to support the bargaining efforts because this is gonna be open for bargaining in the fall. Faculty and staff, okay, thank you, Rachel. So that's mainly what we are working. So we want to put together a report that we can give to the bargaining team before the beginning of the semester, of fall semester. And then we also been coordinating support for parents who have not been able to get a vaccine because they have child care duties. And we've been able to support, or like at least we're trying to support parents that said that they are in need of babysitting. So that's mainly the main two things that we've been working on.
All right, thank you, Pilar. Yep, and thank you for restarting the Family and Child Care Committee. It's very important, and I think it will be especially important once we fully reopen Family and Child Care. I think as families have experienced a lot of trouble, during COVID-19 virtual learning and stuff, but it's especially hard when you're fully in person, trying to get around campus, trying to transport yourself and your kid, figure out how to watch them. So, this is the importance of this committee is really going to skyrocket, I think, and starting in summer B and the upcoming fall semester. So it's a great time to get started. And thank you very much for standing up and volunteering to do so. Does anyone have any questions for Pilar? Please raise your hand or throw them in the chat. Seeing none, we will move on to communications. Our communications chair is not here, but I do feel.
Yep. Sorry, I was thinking organizing chair. I'm like, wait, Ara's here. Sorry.
Oh, did I say organizing? I'm sorry, I meant to say communications.
You did not say organizing. That's just what I heard.
Okay. Yeah, so our communications chair isn't here, but I do feel qualified enough to give an update based on my previous work with our former communications chair, and I feel confident in saying that the communications committee has been continuing to communicate, as Stephen Phillips would say. She's really hit the ground running. She's been very active, not only in communicating the message of the executive board and updating members on what we are doing, but also receiving communication and sharing that communication from the rank and file and sharing that with the officers, allowing us to better represent everyone, better organize people. So that work has been very daunting this semester because of updates with the Chen and Tali case. So I mean, it takes a lot of energy and effort to work both sides of that communication network, right? Disseminating the information that the e-board needs to get out, and receiving, digesting the communication from the rank and file and sharing it with the officers and trying to help the officers find a way to respond appropriately and help members help themselves, essentially. So we're very thankful for her work, and we do not blame her for not wanting to get on another Zoom call. Okay, so any question about communications? I will try to communicate answers as best as possible. Seeing none, we will move on to organizing. Ara?
Yeah, hey guys. So yeah, brief general update. It was a complicated semester. I mean, we spent a lot of time and energy on the work to rule effort, and then we kind of ended up sort of changing our strategy somewhat in that regard. So it's been sort of a complicated semester on the organizing front, but looking forward, I guess, want to talk about something briefly. So there's some troubling kind of union busting legislation that I guess this is in like the Florida House right now. Basically what it would do is make it so that, a union has to, I think, like have 50% membership. And then if it doesn't, it would like lose it would just basically like not exist anymore, or just lose its right to exist. And then also in addition to that, Meredith, right, it's that you need to you have to like certify members every year. Is that correct?
Every election, is it contract signing, Bobby?
Yes, sorry. There was a change yesterday. A committee substitute changed things. The key points of this legislation right now is that it's now been expanded to all public sector workers with the exception of police and firefighters. They all have to, every public sector union in the state of Florida must maintain 50% membership or be certified. They no longer have to they no longer have to get people to re-sign up every 3 years or every new contract, depending on which is soonest. So now they just have to maintain the 50%, which is still difficult in Florida because you can receive the benefits of the union without having to pay into it. So that's thing one. You'll get decertified if you do not maintain 50% membership. Thing two is you can no longer have union dues deducted. You can no longer pay your union dues through your paychecks. So the unions themselves have to collect that money. Thing three, and this is really, really huge. This is probably what I think is the worst part of the bill. Because even, worst case scenario, we can like lower dues to like a very negligible amount to get the 50%. Like there are things that we can do to get around everything else. We can do auto drafting for dues. That's fine. Big thing is that any member of the bargaining unit at any public sector union in Florida, with the exception of police and firefighters, will be able to request from the Public Employees Relations Commission an audit of the actual membership rolls. Which means that PERC will ask the union, which now collects all union dues, collects the membership rolls. If there is one discrepancy between what the union has, right, and what PERC has, if they find one error in that audit, just one, automatically decertified. This is really huge because I can tell you it is not possible to meet that requirement. The union will be decertified. In order to reach and maintain 50% membership, you need to know who your employees are. You need to know each and every employee. So we do win things in the contract, like a list of employees from the University of Florida HR department. But that list is not accurate, and we always have to make adjustments to it. HR is always behind on uploading a graduate worker's employment information. And the only reason we know about that is because somebody will sign up to be a member and we don't find them on the non-members list or the members list, right? They would be a new employee and their paperwork might have been filed late by HR. So if they're trying to reach out to us to become a member, we can fix it. But a lot of people aren't trying to become members, so we don't know that they're not on our list. We would be held responsible for that. And if and automatically, right, let's say we get our list in January, somebody files a complaint and asks for an audit in February. In February, we give our list that we got from HR to the Public Employees Relations Commission. HR gives their list to that same commission. There's automatically going to be a discrepancy, right? Somebody's going to be added between January and February. We will be held responsible for that. We will be certified. So this is huge. And sorry to get all technical, but I just want to be clear about how dangerous this law and especially that part of it is. Sorry, go on.
No, yeah, thank you for that, Bobby. Right, so yeah, it's just to kind of zoom in a little bit. We are not at 50%. We're not almost at 50%. We're pretty low. I guess. Well, now we're thinking we're in the teens, right? Or something.
No, we're at about 21, 22%.
Okay. Nice.
And we have the highest density of all of the GAUs in Florida, well, with the exception of FAMU. And we have the most GAs. So we're pretty
correct. Good. Okay. But no. Yeah, I thought it was 18. I guess it's 21 now, which is great. But so we're not at 50, unfortunately. It would certainly be very tough to get to 50, but I don't think that we should just kind of throw up our hands and give up. I think because it's hard to predict the future, as Bobby said. The bill has been changed recently. It could change again. Someone could, that percentage could be lowered, or you don't know what's going to happen. But we have to sort of act as if we can sort of reverse course here and achieve. Sort of meet that threshold. So just looking forward. I was wanting to do like kind of a call-a-thon because I'm Meredith and also I thought Kelly was here, but so yeah, Meredith and I are we're in this program called the Fellows Program, which does like sort of outreach and focuses a lot on membership. And I've had a lot of success this semester just calling people up, asking them how they're doing. Just running, like asking them, are you a member of the union? If not, like, do you have any interest? So I think that's certainly something we can think about, both maybe at the in the tail end of the semester, and also I think going forward is maybe next semester, like especially with the new GAs coming in, like calling every single one of them up, just welcoming them, sort of getting our name out there. So that's sort of what I see the committee's role as going forward, I guess. Any questions? Oh.
Any questions, Avara? Please raise your hand and throw them in the chat. Is there a plan for orientation this fall? So We have not spoken about it yet. We are still, so I have not brought it up because I know we're going to be in person this fall, but I'm not sure how the orientations are going to work. And we have not received, typically what happens is we receive from the graduate school like a save the date type of message that says this is when the new TA orientation is going to be. This is when the new graduate student resource fair is going to be. That's where these things kick off the orientation membership drive. And then after that, we reach out to the departments. And that we usually hear from the graduate school by now. We start hearing from the departments in the summer. There will definitely be something for the for orientations, but Meredith is working on finding a new membership chair who will handle the orientations side of it. All right. Another thing I'll say about organizing.
Esteban has a question.
Oh, sorry, Esteban.
No worries. It comes as two questions. How likely is this law to pass? And if it does, how likely is that it will be challenged? All meaning, how much time would we have for it not to come to fruition?
Yep. Have you been briefed on this, Ara? Were you at the meeting yesterday?
I was not, so maybe let you give the latest update there.
Okay. So the AFL-CIO asked me, all the public sector unions, and our grandparent union, let's say, Florida Education Association, is very, very concerned about this bill. They call it a Category 5 situation, you know, alluding to hurricanes, and it is. That being said, there is a good deal of cautious optimism that we can find the 4 votes that we need to find in the Senate to stop the bill. There is, let me make sure that I get this accurate here. There is 2.5 weeks, or technically 2 weeks and 2 days left of the legislative session. So the good news is, because the bill was changed in the Senate, all of the work in the House has to be done over again. Bad news is, because now the House bills and the Senate bills don't match, and they need to match if they go to, in order to go to the governor, be signed for law, or signed into law. So right now they don't match. The bad news is that the House is allowed to move very, very quickly on stuff. There aren't very many rules in the House that cannot be changed by waving of the hand of the speaker. So it could be rushed through the House again. That being said, I think there's a good chance we can defeat this bill. I think that we can I'm pretty confident about finding 3 of the votes. They're not publicly releasing the names of the votes they're targeting yet. Everyone's still kind of working that out, but I have 3 names in mind that I think that we can get on our side very easily, 2 of which are already on our side. So then the question comes down in my analysis to finding 1 extra vote. So it is a Category 5 situation, but I do think that time is on our side in this matter, especially because the change happened in the Senate. If it does pass, it will be challenged. All this stuff is challenged, and if it gets challenged, it'll probably be put on hold. It's supposed to go into effect in 2022, if I recall correctly. It would probably go into effect in instead of mid 2022, it'd probably go into effect late 2022 if it passes and it's not adjusted. So.
Yeah, sorry, quickly. No, Bobby, I chose to implicitly on the topic of the legislature and getting those votes, but I wouldn't stake the existence of our union on it. In other words, I feel like we have to act as if it's like sort of going to pass in some capacity, or that's how I look at it.
Well, no, we absolutely do. You're absolutely correct, because like I said, even in my analysis, because like that's what I mean. Like there's still 1 vote that you need, right? Time's on our side, but we still need to act, right? I'm just saying, like we're not dead yet. right? But we are not in an advantageous position, right? And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to give off too much false optimism, and thank you for pointing that out, Ara. I just meant to say that we're not dead yet. Yeah. The good news in the legislature, let's also like end on some good news in the legislature. The Senate did pass a bill that basically would kill the state pension system. And for some reason, we're not hearing much from the House about it. So it looks like it might die in the House. So pensions are good, and on a happy note. So yes, and also I did want to add, even though we don't have, we decided we had to pull away from the right to work because we weren't getting enough interest outside of English and poli-sci. We did make a slight adjustment to it. So we are still doing a virtual demonstration. I just posted in the chat a signature that I would like you to add, or some text I'd like you to add to your signature in Outlook. So when you email people, this always shows up. So any more questions for organizing? Raise your hand on chat. All right, seeing none, we will move on. Our chief steward is not here, and we are at the 47-minute point. So should we skip the steward's report? Okay. Let's go ahead and move the anti-austerity updates to the end, so that way everybody who wants to speak in open floor can do so prior to 7. Let's do the election really quick. We have an election by acclamation. Let's start with Uff Senators. So there are 28 Senate seats. They are for a term of 1 year, and we did not get nominees for all 28. So those who were nominated are automatically elected. They are Robert Baez, Izu Azukanma, Rachel Hartnett, Meredith Miska, Javier Mesa, Esteban Rafili, and Ana Ugades Brenes. Congratulations, new senators. If you did want to nominate somebody, like I said, there are open seats. Please email organizing@UFGAU. We have open seats, and the executive board can appoint people to fill those vacancies. For FEA delegate, Florida Education Association delegate, we have 14 seats. That's for a term of 1 year. We had 4 people nominated out of 14 seats, so they are automatically elected. Similarly, if you want to serve as a delegate to the Florida Education Association Delegate Assembly, please email us at organizing@ufgau.org and let us know. The new FEA delegates are Robert Baez, Rachel Hartnett, Meredith Miska, and Ana Ugade Brenes. So congratulations to our new FEA delegates. We do have a referendum, multiple, for amendment to the bylaws. Unfortunately, we were not able to, according to the statewide union's interpretation of federal law, we, despite being a state public sector union, which is not typically governed by federal union laws, because St. Leo University is part of our statewide union and is private sector, they take a conservative approach and say that those federal labor laws do apply to us in terms of internal governance. Those federal labor laws require elections to be held certain ways, either by mail ballot or in-person balloting at meetings, or on designated dates. I sought authorization to suspend that requirement from our statewide union and allow us to hold a virtual election on the amendments to the bylaws, but my requests were never responded to. So we have to assume that we are not authorized to hold these elections virtually. I wish we could. I'm sorry to do this, but the election will be held tomorrow outside of Young Hall. So I will let Stephen now take the floor to talk about the proposed amendments to the bylaws and to explain the voting procedure.
All right, good evening, everyone. As Bobby said, we will be holding the bylaw election tomorrow. It will be outside of Turlington Hall and Turlington Plaza from 3:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. What we will be voting on is 5 main amendments to GAU's bylaws. To kind of sum these up rather quickly, the first proposed amendment basically splits up the election of officers. Currently, as we have it, all officers besides a co-president are elected in even numbered years, and only a co-president is elected in odd numbered years. One of the amendments just splits those up. So half the officers are elected in even numbered years and half are elected in odd numbered years. Another one, the second amendment, just changes the dates that officers would take election or take office from the end of April to mid-April. The third proposed amendment just institutes additional rules for conducting elections. For instance, if there happens to be a tie or someone were to challenge the validity of an election. The fourth proposed change just elaborates on the duties of the coordinator, which is one of the officers for GAU. And the last one just adds a new article to the bylaws, an article that provides some regulations that deals with finances. So it specifies what our fiscal year is and stuff like that. But this voting will take place in person tomorrow in Turlington Plaza. Feel free to stop by, come out and join us. We will also have some GAU swag if you'd like to pick up some swag like shirts and buttons and such. But we'll be there from 3:30 to 6:30. Please, if you are going to come out, talk to us, please do wear a mask and be COVID safe. But we do hope to see you out there tomorrow.
Thank you. Really quick, any questions about the proposed amendments to the bylaws? Please raise your hand or throw them in the chat. All right. Seeing none, we will move on to our last election. I'm sorry, Esteban, did you just raise your hand? All right. We're moving on to our last election, another election by acclamation. This one is for co-president. I am leaving, thankfully. And we have only one candidate, which means they're automatically elected, and that is our co-president-elect, Rachel Hartnett, or Harnett, depending on which email you're reading. So congratulations, Rachel, on becoming new co-president. You are going to do swimmingly. Would you like to say anything?
Thank you, and I hope so.
All right. Thank you. All right. So now we will move on to open floor. Does anybody have any general union questions, comments, concerns that they would like to discuss? Please raise your hand and throw them in the chat. All right. No questions, comments, concerns? Good news to share? Thank you, Hannah. Hannah says thanks for all your hard work on behalf of GAs. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. Yes. Mary Roca, former co-president, says congratulations, everyone. Rachel, you're going to be a wonderful co-president. Thank you for all your work.
Thank you. Thanks, Mary.
All right. So I will go ahead and close the floor. So that means, yeah, we moved anti-austerity updates. So the last business that we have is to talk about anti-austerity, the anti-austerity campaign. As I said, we did have to hold off on the work to rule because we weren't getting enough interest in enough departments. We wanted to make sure everyone was going to be protected through the strength in numbers. And unfortunately, we weren't able to reach that. We are not giving up on the campaign, though. And oh, thank you, Pilar. So please do add to your emails this automatic signature if you have not done so already. All of these issues are still hot, they're still ongoing. And so far, thanks to the work of all of you, thanks to the work of the faculty union, thanks to the work of just really amazing undergraduates, OPS workers speaking up for themselves, a lot of the worst has been staved off or is currently like in the process of being staved off. So I'm going to talk about 4 planks of the anti-austerity platform. First one would be furloughs. So far, according to my most recent information, and I haven't heard anything in about 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, so I could be wrong. If anybody's heard anything else, please let me know. But so far, the furlough policy is still in effect, but has not been fully utilized by the university. There was 2 cases that I'm aware of staff workers being told that they would no longer temporarily would no longer be able to work in their current positions, but they were given positions in other parts of the university temporarily. However, this is, that just means that they avoided the worst. It's still not good though, right? Because it still involves, retraining. You're doing a lot of work to retrain for something that you're not going to be at long just to be thrown back into your old position. So we still, even though we haven't seen the worst that they could possibly do yet, we've seen them seriously disrupt the work life of several employees. So we do still need to keep fighting back against the furlough policy. Also, I'm not familiar with the incoming faculty Senate president, and I'm not sure how aggressive they will be in holding UF accountable. Sylvain Doré, the outgoing faculty union president, though we have our disagreements, has done a very good job of keeping the university administration and the board of trustees in line. So there is a chance that the new president is not going to do that. So we will have to step up. Racial justice. We continue to try to communicate with several of the POC groups on campus, but most of our collaboration is on the issue of error marks. So the Gator NAACP and the Gosville Dream Defenders have been our biggest partners in the racial justice initiative, and they have been trying to get UF to commit to not renewing their food service vendor contract with Airmark due to Airmark's use of prison labor, and they're essentially making millions, if not billions, off of the prison industrial complex, which we are all aware. I think everyone here in the Zoom room is aware that this disproportionately harms Black people, especially Black men. They have been getting the runaround from Gosville Dream Defenders, Gator NAACP, several other groups like the Coalition Against Prison Slavery have been working through lobbying to get the university to not renew their contract with Airmark, and to also publicly acknowledge Airmark's role as a human rights abuser. They've been lobbying business services, which is responsible for these types of contracts on campus. And they have been getting the runaround. They have been made to research and compile just mountains of data and information, and only to be disrespected by business services in closed door meetings. Business services has handled this very untransparently. And the food justice group has, been powering through regardless of that. Having a lot of meetings, putting in a lot of unpaid labor into compiling this report, and only to be disrespected at the end of the day. The committee that is responsible for deciding on the new contract and the new bids. They have only, the food justice group is only being given, after all of this, 5 minutes to pitch to the committee. So it's absolutely not acceptable. So please reach out to the Godsville Dream Defenders and the Gator NAACP if you want to get involved, and we will continue to monitor the situation and help them where we can as well. But please spread the word. You know, we have a great group of undergrads working on this, and you know, they keep getting disrespected. They're putting in hours of free labor only to get 5 minutes with the committee. So, you know, one of the reasons why we need to get this signature, this auto signature on our emails, to spread awareness about this and get people educated on what UF is doing in conjunction with Aramark. All right, so housing is another plank of anti-austerity campaign. We have been getting some good press, good coverage, sympathetic coverage over the university's plans to demolish McGuire Village and UVS. We've also had a big setback. The big setback is the University Board of Trustees had approved a request to the Board of Governors to float a bond that would allow them to construct a new undergraduate housing complex in the southwest corner or southwest quadrant of campus. This bond is going to essentially over leverage UF housing, making it more difficult to repair make the necessary repairs of those two graduate villages, McGuire and UVS. The bond is not a done deal. The Board of Governors still has to approve the bond. Our partners in the GSC have been monitoring the BOG to see when they are going to agenda this. So far, it is not set to be agended at the next meeting. That might change. But the key takeaway is once we know that the BOG is about to move on this bond, we really need to mobilize against it. We need to call the BOG and highlight that this bond will over leverage, highlight 3 things. This bond will over leverage UF housing, making it almost impossible to make necessary repairs to graduate villages and other undergraduate housing. 2, that the chief financial officer of the university has already publicly expressed skepticism that this new graduate housing building will be financially viable. He said they pretty much need 100% occupancy to make it just barely financially viable. So the CFO is already not on board. And 3, this bond is part of a larger housing plan that involves the demolition of McGuire UVS. And on that score, it is premised on something that they have not demonstrated yet, that UVS and McGuire Village are uninhabitable and structurally unsound, reaching the end of their lifespans. They have not provided any evidence to suggest this, just assertions that the buildings were built with subpar materials from the late 70s. So we're going to need to hit the BOG hard. I do still think it's possible to save these villages. We've done it once before, and I think we can do it again. UF Housing is not happy with the GSC right now or with GAU because of our work on this, but they're getting a lot of pressure, which is a good sign. The university leadership, the BOT and the president have moved a little bit on the broader issue of graduate housing. They have not moved nearly far enough, and what they are offering is not acceptable, but it is promising to see that they moved at least a little bit. They've already dedicated, this is a big change, although once again, completely unacceptable, dedicated to the building of new public-private partnership housing complexes. Those aren't good, they're not affordable. But I just mentioned that to note that there has been some movement. So now is the time to really pull. All right. Fees, Javi already covered it, but we do believe that the university can pay on our behalf the health and transportation fees. We think that their interpretation of the BOG regulation that they say precludes them from paying the fees on our behalf, we think that that interpretation is completely insane and rests upon the absence of an Oxford comma. There's also a state law that says that a public sector employer, if an agreement comes into conflict, if a benefit or a provision of a collective bargaining agreement comes into conflict with state law, or especially with regulatory agency rules, they shall formally request that that regulatory agency or the state legislature revise that rule or law in order to make the agreement comport with rules and regulations, and they have yet to do that. So we really need to push them on that. I think that's going to be the big fight coming up here in the summer. Was there anything you wanted to add, Meredith?
No, you covered it really well. I have nothing else to add. It's good.
Thank you. Any questions before we say our farewell and I say my big farewell? Raise your hand or throw your question in the chat. All right. Seeing none, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you for all the hard work you guys do as volunteers and officers. Past 3 years have been just amazing. I've really loved this work, and I've really loved working with all of you to be, effective change agents here at the University of Florida and North Central Florida more broadly. It was stressful at times, but I would not give it up for anything. But I'm very happy now to pass the time to Rachel, who's going to be, an even better co-president. So thank you, Rachel, for stepping up. Yeah. And that's it. Yeah. Thank you.
Bobby, thank you for all of the hard work and dedication that you have provided to GAU. Honestly, like the past 3 years, I mean, I basically became involved 3 years ago, and you have always been like the go-to person for everything that we've needed. And so thank you so much for providing even your extra term, because I really needed that.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. All right. So I think that that wraps it up. So, thank you, everyone. You have a good one.